to indicate a specific credible terror threat in the United States. Now, keep in mind, this is the second terror attack in the UK in just the past 2 weeks. It is the third in just the past 3 months. The London mayor, Sadiq Khan, has now issued a statement tonight calling this a deliberate and cowardly attack on innocent Londoners. Robin Simcox is a counterterrorism analyst at the Heritage Foundation, and he joins me now with more. And Robin, good to see you again. And I keep going back over some comments that Congressman Pete Hoekstra told us earlier, saying, you know, the confidence of the people in the UK, 3 attacks in 3 months, 2 in 2 weeks, has got to be low.
Yes, well, I think especially because Britain's intelligence services are generally considered to be world class. The UK puts a lot of money into counter-terrorism, into its intelligence work. MI5, MI6, GCHQ, the Foreign Intelligence Agency, the Domestic Agency, and the Signals Intelligence Agency all work together very closely. They work together with the police. And so the UK has generally been able to protect itself time and again from terrorists, but we're now seeing a worrying 3 attacks in 3 months, and I think that has to have some effect on the confidence of the British people. Yeah,
and nobody's saying they're not good, because they've been very effective at their job for a very long time, Robin. I mean, I was back over there when they foiled those transatlantic airline bombings, you know, back in 2007, and it's indicative of the fact that, you know, they know what they're doing. They've got good intel, but Hoekstra was saying, you know, they're outnumbered. They just have too many people now to watch, and we always note that whenever these attacks happen, that these people, the suspects, were on their radar, but yet they didn't have enough to go after them, correct?
Well, yeah, that's absolutely right. So there's around 3,000 terror suspects that the security services are imminently concerned about. Then there's about another 20,000 out there that the UK thinks are potential terror threats, but it hasn't got the resources to prioritize. So if you're thinking about, it's around 30 people needed to track one terrorist. So you're looking at a manpower of almost 700,000 agents to try and be able to track that amount of number. The UK just doesn't have the capacity to do it. It has to prioritize all the time who the main terrorist threats are. Occasionally it's going to get it wrong.
Yeah, and tomorrow morning you have Theresa May, who will meet with her cabinet, meet with her terrorism officials, her Cobra group, and there's got to be some consternation in that room. I mean, what's the conversation? What's the plan? What's the target, Robin?
Well, they're going to have to first of all figure out whether this was a 3-man operation or whether it was a larger network. Is there other cells involved in this? Is there other copycat attacks or other attacks being planned for the days after? We've just begun Ramadan, and ISIS have regularly called for attacks in this period. So there's going to be a lot of work being done to try and figure out who these people were. Maybe the police already know. Maybe they already were on the radar. Who are their associates? So they're going to have to be further arrests made. My guess, Trace, is that there will be further arrests made in the coming days, and the police are going to have to try and get control of this. But remember, they're still dealing with the fallout from the Manchester terrorist attack. So yeah, this is an overworked, overburdened, and overstretched security service and police force at the moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Manchester attack, and at that time, you know, we were doing the same thing. We were up late, we were kind of reading this, we were looking for answers there, and they were talking about how, because of that bomb, because of the suicide bomb, that it appeared to be a pretty well-planned, right, a well-coordinated attack. And this one, Robin, seems to be as rudimentary as it gets. I mean, we're talking about a van and 3 knives with phony bombs on there. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, that's absolutely right. And Trace, doesn't this just give you the perfect example of what a difficult problem that the West faces now? Because the terrorists have so many options. They can try and construct these suicide vests and get training from abroad, perhaps, to be able to do so. They can try and get firearms. If they can't get those things, then they just need to try and buy a knife or hire a van. And they can create carnage. They can cause carnage. They can kill people. They can injure dozens, as there's been the case in this attack. So what worries me is that the terrorists are increasingly aware of how many options they have to carry out these kind of attacks, and governments, I think, are increasingly incapable of being able to stop them. It's why we have such a hugely concerning security situation in Europe at the moment.
Robin Simcox, counterterrorism analyst at the Heritage Foundation. Robin, good analysis. Great to see you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I want to bring in the former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, Steve Rogers. And Steve, just kind of picking up on what Robin was talking about